Thank y'all for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. Look here, we about to drop this thing right now. So hold on. Yeah. Right now.
Are we recording?
I've been recording.
So you're gonna have to chop this up. Let me just get here.
Right now.
There is a couple of videos on it.
On what? The book?
No, the second movie. It says here that Willow 2, Willow sequel confirmed by Ron Howard.
How old is those?
Um,
Because now they're doing it as like a Mandalorian thing on Disney Plus.
oh, is that what they're saying? They're not gonna end up making a movie?
It's not a movie. It's going to be like a 8 to 12 part TV show. That's going to be on Disney Plus. Warwick Davis is supposed to return to play Willow again. If Warwick Davis is going to come back and be like 60 years old, then they're going to kill off everybody else, I'm
Hey
sure.
everybody, this is Johnny Depp, and I've heard some amazing news today. They're actually maybe doing a sequel to Willow, the 1988, in my opinion, very much a classic. It did not actually do very well when it was released in theaters, but I grew up on that movie and I absolutely love it. Super excited about the idea that there might be a sequel. Now the rumor right now is that Disney, since Disney owns Lucasfilm and all that, and Willow is a Lucasfilm property, and Ron Howard is now working with Lucasfilm again because he took over directing duties for Solo. You know, it's kind of full circle. Things are coming together, and they actually are talking about that possibility. Ron Howard admitted. He brought it up in an interview recently. So, first off, might be on the streaming service that is upcoming to Disney. That's one thing they're talking
No, they
about.
confirmed that at the
Maybe
end of the year
a
last year.
series, maybe like hour-long episodes, kind of like Game of Thrones and Walking Dead and all that kind of stuff. It could be one of those. I think that's the way they'd be leaning, because they're supposed to be leaning pretty heavy into the streaming service, which I think shows do better to get more time.
Yeah, I just...
More time. The rumor right now also is that Laura Dannon, which is the baby actually in the original.
I don't care if they put it on a streaming service as long as they still put it out on Blu-ray at some point in a box set.
Yeah, here's my deal. Like, I wish I would have known what he was about to say with the Lord.
No, none of that's confirmed now. That was all the original stuff.
I know, here's my... I think my problem with it is I'm scared that Disney will find some way to fuck it up.
I don't think it's going to happen now.
I mean, if it was to happen.
I think
okay,
before the-
here we're talking of...
I think before the
hypothetical.
coronavirus that you had a chance of this happening. I think
Now you
now
don't.
they're going to take the money that they do get and they're going to put it towards something that's already made the money, like the Mandalorian and the Star Wars stuff.
Sure.
I doubt they're going to go ahead and follow through, or it's going to be another 5 to 6 years before we're going to see anything else about Willow.
Yeah. And I can agree with you on that. It probably has been dropped now, but...
And I think what the best thing's going to have to do at that point is, if Warwick Davis gets too old, because with his dwarfism, the older he gets, the harder it's going to be for him to move.
Sure.
I think they're going to do away with this,
Yeah.
and they're going to have like the first 3 episodes of whatever series they do
Yeah.
actually retell this story with new people, that they can actually still have a Madmartigan and a princess.
Sure.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a retelling.
I would
of
watch.
it.
I would watch. You know how I am.
No.
with movies.
If they did it right, you could take,
I could probably
because you
get
could
into
flesh
it.
out, if you had like 45-minute to hour episodes you could actually expand on some of the parts that they probably didn't have time for, or stuff that was cut out the original movie.
Yeah.
Warwick Davis confirmed that there was like a part in the original movie when he's on the boat going to the little island.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it kind of cuts from him just like looking like he's having a hard time paddling to just be on the island. There was supposed to be this like shark man that attacks him, and he has to get away from it.
Oh, wow.
He said that the scene was filmed, and it's actually in the novelization of the actual movie. But for some reason they cut it out. Whether or not they were having a hard time with the special effects, maybe with the water, or something, or limitations on the budget or whatnot.
Yeah.
But it was filmed. But some of the stuff that, you know, because Ron Howard still, if he's alive, even 5 or 6 years from now, he could still have executive producer, full creative input. I just think that, you know, with this not being a guaranteed thing, because I mean, like, projects like this from Lucasfilm would come off of what they're getting profits from other properties to be able to fund something like this. And with the coronavirus and Disneyland, Disney World's not open. They haven't been able to release some of the major stuff in theaters like Black Widow. So Disney's not making the money that they're used to.
Not at all.
They're not gonna put something out that's a cult classic for some people to enjoy.
No, I agree. But that is where I have a problem with you bringing a classic over to a streaming, you know, platform and totally recreating it. Even if it what happened to be Warwick Davis, a lot of even some other characters that were still, you know, young enough to, you know, because a lot of you know, some of the new Star Wars trilogy that we've been going to see, a lot of people's criticized what Disney has done with it.
Yeah,
and you know how I am with we've talked about this a lot, and I have a problem with sticking to the original stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where
and that's where I think you're going to have issues with this, because it could take like Ron Howard getting left toe cancer, and if he pulls out, nobody's going to want to touch Willow.
Right.
I mean, the original movie didn't make money. It barely made a profit, even with VHS and home theater or home sales.
Yeah.
George Lucas wasn't willing on doing a sequel in the 90s. They're not gonna. There's no movie studio that's going to do Willow 2. Especially if Ron Howard decides that, like, okay, well, I wanted to do it, but now because of the coronavirus thing, I'm either going to go ahead and just retire, or I'm going to put my energy into something else.
Right. I still think that it could have been good, though, you know, going back to with technology, though, because, you know, like what we were speaking about when we were watching the making after we watched the movie, about how far technology has come to them being able to, you know, with special effects, CGI versus the things that they were using back then to kind of mimic, you know.
Well, I feel like maybe like 98, 99, or like right after Val Kilmer did like Batman Forever, would have been really cool for like maybe a second sequel. And maybe like him and the princess actually had like another child, like a brother for Laura Dannon. And then like you might have gotten away with waiting like another 10 years, let's say like around 2005 or 2009. And even though Val Kilmer was starting to look like he was kind of more rough around the edges and gained a little bit of weight, you could have it to where like the princess for some reason passed away. He's like an old decrepit king of everything, and then he passes away, but he does it because of the events of the movie, like the third movie in the trilogy. And then like Laura Dannon's like brother's been like groomed to make sure that she survives for some reason, and then that would give you like two younger characters to carry on for something else. Yeah, and you could have still had Val Kilmer in long enough to like Madmartigan still had a reason,
right?
You know what I mean? A legacy, but he left it to where he was sent off correctly, not just like killed off in like the third chapter of the first book. You know what I mean?
Right.
In passing, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell, man. Because in all honesty, I mean, like, the original movie, because you kind of like look at it from two different ways. Because the original movie is kind of like a game of chance with the river. Like, the little people would have never even felt the impact of what was going on throughout this whole struggle for the most part.
Right.
Like, with the name of it being Willow, does he always have to be involved in these bigger things going on with the bigger sides of the kingdom that's miles away up the river? Or would you actually, like, find something maybe on a smaller scale that would affect him but at home? But would still, because they're smaller and they have, you know, even when they were like fighting the little dogs with the spears and stuff, when they came into the camp at the beginning during the festival, it took like 6 of them with spears and pitchforks to take one of the little dogs down.
Right.
You know what I mean? As where like Eric or any of his army could have killed one of them with one person.
Right.
So I mean, you're looking at like what the bigger army wouldn't consider a huge threat would be a huge threat to like this little farming village. So would you make it like a smaller scaled? Willow's been practicing his sorcery stuff and stuff
That's
like
what
that.
I was going to say.
Like more as like starting off with that, and then maybe it's not like he doesn't even like get back involved with like dakinis and stuff like that until way later. You know what I mean? Like he has to overcome stuff because now everybody in his little village looks up to him for going on this adventure. Shit hits the fans. They're having rough times. The crops, the harvest didn't do this.
Right.
Willow, you got to save us. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, I don't know. And then maybe like the 2 little brownies come up, like, hey, there's some shit going on at the castle. You know, you're needed. He's like, what am I supposed to do? You know, there's way too much going on right now. And then he like kills himself.
No, I think it could be the other way around. I think if it wasn't had so many years have passed since,
right?
I think you could have got away with that with a sequel where Willow was still young enough to be able to play that scene.
Right.
And now at his age, I think you would have to go solely into something to where you have to use your imagination. Willow is old. He's already mastered his sorcery.
Right. But does the focus have to be on a little person at this point, just because the first one was?
I don't necessarily think so. I think you would be able to get away with, like you said, it being about Elora Danan.
Well, because I mean, like, it's like Willow's a very small part of like this bigger story,
right?
And it was like by chance he got involved with it.
Right. Willow was the focus of the first.
So would Willow too be called Elora Danan, or the Empress of Tir Nana?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Tirlazine.
It wouldn't be Willow 2, but it would be set in the same world as Willow.
Right.
And maybe like they go and consult Willow about something, or they reference Willow and his community and all that, but it's like the actual sequel to Willow actually about Willow. Or is it
I think
more
you make
about,
a good point. I think it's more about Elora Danan and her fulfilling her destiny.
Correct.
And I think Willow to be there in and out as a guide to her.
Right. Maybe,
but it like doesn't focus on him solely.
Maybe like these new scrolls get pulled out that says, "Oh man, this the text that had the prophecy on it was cut at the bottom. We found the rest of it. It 15, 20 years later. Oh my God, the queen's gonna return."
Right.
I did, because the chick never did anything.
No.
She never stopped the queen. So, like, it was foretold she would be the empress to stop the queen.
Exactly.
That never came to pass.
That never
in the whole
came,
thing.
Never came to pass about it.
So, like we said, the queen had the wand. So she did a protection spell on whatever was lightning and all that, and she just got teleported to a different realm or whatever happened. She was doing that incantation, blow the 13th candle out, because she was going to banish the baby's soul somewhere. Well, maybe the queen goes to this realm, and there's somebody else there that gives the queen more power, and it's like, go get your revenge.
Right.
Take my armies with you, but then you allow me to come to your realm.
Exactly.
But then, like, maybe Willow at this point has been just practicing his sorcery, and then all of his people are flourishing. But then when they come to what was her name again? Elena Dana.
You start with the Elena Dana.
Alora Dana.
Alora Dannon.
Maybe she's the one that like says, you know, oh my God, my father, Madmartigan's dead.
Right.
And my mom's passed away from dysentery. I don't know.
Mm.
I need Willow. I need Willow to tell me where to go next on the journey. So then she sends the little brownies to get Willow, and it's like, she needs your counsel. Maybe then Willow, just as an old friend,
sure,
tells her like what route to go, and then because it's Willow and everybody knows who he was, you know, maybe
and you know the way
maybe Eric had a wife back home and has a son now that grew up and knew that his dad died in the big battle, but Willow was there, and he's like, I offer my services, blah blah blah, you tell us what we need to do.
Right. And we don't need and
we don't need
with
Willow
that story base,
the whole
you don't
time.
even need Madmartigan at this point.
No, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
You just have Willow there to give counsel and advice.
Exactly. And
to set
you can
the
mention
story
him
off from here on out.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because now, you know, maybe like the first part of the series is them trying to figure out a way to, you know, oh man, Azriela or whatever the lady was, you know, she had the books before she died hidden in a cave on the island.
Right.
To ward off the coming of Gozer.
I get what you're saying.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
And then it's like, you know, when Willow's just like, I'm too old for this journey, but I can set you on your way.
Right. Right.
And that was, you know what I mean?
That's, more or less what I was getting into.
The first season is like them leading up to trying to get the rest of the prophecy that said the queen will return.
Right.
Alora Dannon, because Madmartigan's gone and she doesn't have anybody to guide her, she's timid. She don't think she can do it. She don't think she's powerful enough. She didn't learn magic the way that everybody else knows it. She don't know how she's supposed to fulfill this duty.
No.
So then at the end of the
you have that to be able to tell that story.
Right. That would be like
because it is unknown. Blocks. All we know is that she is to be the most powerful of.
But she has to physically go on the journey.
Right.
She has to be the one to find the books because it was a safe. You know.
It kind of reminds me of the story of Remy. Or what's her name? Starts with an R in the Star Wars trilogy that we've been on. Rey.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of a Rey scenario.
Kind of like you have to leave your comfort zone and go on the adventure.
Exactly.
Because part of the prophecy also says that like if the Empress does nothing, she automatically loses or something. Have some kind of stupid MacGuffin.
Right.
To where only she, you know, the magical scrolls to prevent the queen's coming will only reveal themselves to the true empress or the heir of the land or blah blah blah. So then, like, you know, as she's going on this journey to find whatever it is, that's when they're getting the newer cast members, the younger people that can survive a 3 or 4 season thing if it can go that long, you know.
Right. I think it would do better, honestly. I think it would do better as like a mini series, even if it was like a 8, 9, 10 part mini series.
No, that's what I'm thinking. Like the half, like do it where like it's like the halfway through, like you release only like the first 4 to 8 episodes,
right?
But knowing that there's going to be another chunk that comes later, but the end of those episodes is like
be a 2-part.
They found out that like the queen's already returned or something.
Right.
And the queen's the one that's been putting these ideas in her head.
Maybe she has been.
She's been manipulating.
She's been in the the queen has been in the shadows.
Yeah.
And people think that she has been gone.
Right. But she
and everything was wonderful.
Right.
But it wasn't.
Or if it turns out that she had already like transferred part of her essence into the baby. So she was always there. And what they're doing at the end of it is like the scrolls are going to find is actually like the queen putting in place, that's how she can get herself back out.
Right.
And then inadvertently being on the journey to save everybody, Alora Dannon accidentally like dooms everybody.
Right.
She releases the queen.
Yeah. Not knowing.
Not knowing. But that's what I'm saying though. I mean, like, you don't necessarily have to have another replacement as a little person for Willow.
No, I
Willow
don't think
can be
so.
Willow, but not have to go on the adventure.
Not be in the adventure part, right? And you know what? I kind of like that storyline better. I think Willow would only be like a high council type of
Or
person,
he
to
can
where
kind of like turn himself into a bird when needed and fly and be like, I see the mountain over there.
right,
Like, it just use digital effects for like his voice if he's not physically able to get out there and walk through the woods.
Exactly.
Maybe he turns himself into a fox and like, I smell something up ahead. Y'all might want to like.
I get what you're saying. Or maybe in
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like he learned from the mistakes of Azrael.
yeah,
or
I
whatever
think
her
you're
name it
pronouncing
was.
that. Yeah,
Like if somebody ever turns me into an animal, I'm gonna be able to morph back myself.
sure.
So he already knows how to like. He can transform himself. He's used the book. He's built upon stuff before she died. She gave Willow the keys to the kingdom. You're my successor. He does become the most powerful sorcerer.
Yeah,
But I don't know, and like not trying to hold back little people, but maybe there's some kind of like a give and take thing. Like he's limited on the certain amount of power he can use because of his race as being a peck or whatever the name of them are.
right.
Maybe he's
Elvins. No,
something. I'm not sure. I know they're not hobbits, but
no.
you know what I mean. Though maybe there's something there that like the more he uses
I think it was Elvins.
the power, like maybe it like decreases his lifespan by a certain amount.
Sure.
But he feels like because his children are grown, their little town's prospering. Maybe he knows what he did for Laura Dannon at one point, and he's willing to use the magic to make sure that she can fulfill her prophecy.
Right.
And then like,
Well, after all, I mean, that is what it was about. Really, was
Right.
about Willow,
because she trusted
the
him.
the little guy that you would never expect to be
Right.
the hero.
Well, I mean, we saw what happened with Carrie Fisher with Star Wars. She passed away, and then they were stuck doing some goofy shit in the last one just to be able to finish out her story.
Right.
I mean, Warwick Davis isn't going to be around forever.
No.
So, like, my thing is like find a graceful way to send him off to where the story can continue, and
Sure.
he's not 100%
And
necessary.
hopefully he is still alive to where in the very first episode,
No, yeah.
towards the ending, he can go peacefully in his bed,
or find a MacGuffin to where like he can be there, but in a different form without having to physically be there.
right, like Shalindria.
Like maybe like
Shalindria with the forest,
Yeah.
the spirit, the forest,
something
the
like
lady.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
He becomes an entity like her or something.
Exactly.
And then they can use visual effects and make it make sense. Maybe like he uses the rest of whatever his life force is to help Laura Dannon when she thinks she's about to save everybody, but that's when she releases the queen.
right.
He sacrifices himself for the wrong reasons accidentally, but it was for the right reasons. He turns into like a forest spirit. And then from there on out, she has to go into hiding. The queen takes power, and then it's like her rise up again and having to tell everybody like, this is what we have to do to get the kingdom back or whatever. And again, you've got like 4 or 5 characters up to this point. That's part of the new cast. You can have, you can still have brownies, and then you're pulling all of the different people together. And then maybe like during the last major battle, all the peaceful people, like you don't allude to it at first, but like whenever you go to end it, you actually have like the little people that have like armor and weapons. Like Willow had been preparing them just in case.
Right.
And like Willow's son or something's like leading a small army of little people to come join the battle.
Right.
Out of honor of Willow and what the adventure that went before.
Right. You just made a really good statement about Willow's son. You could also start this thing off without Willow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
But see, I don't want to
bring in.
You could bring in his son, but I think that would be like too cliche at this point, because then you're definitely putting another little person as like the main character.
Yeah.
And I don't think that
You
was what it
couldn't
was
do that
intended.
without putting him as a main character. Honestly, you're right.
I think what you have to do is find a way to keep Willow's presence understood as being there, and he's important to trigger whatever the adventure is.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's 100% necessary for the story of that, like the bigger world stuff to have to unfold.
I agree.
I think the reason the original movie's name was Willow instead of Madmartigan or the fight for the baby
or the brownies or
Castle
any of
Grayskull.
No, it was
You know what I mean?
it was made to be
because
his.
it was by accident the small statured individual that had no business being there,
Right.
and by any account should not have survived half that movie.
Exactly.
And he was able to, but you took anybody else in that village and they probably wouldn't have made the same
impact.
Right. It wouldn't have probably came out the same way.
Right.
And that's supposed to be the allure of the movie is the little guy with all this huge stuff going on around him.
Right.
And if he wouldn't have talked Madmartigan or released him at all, he would have died. If he wouldn't have...
He needed Madmartigan.
Yeah, and
definitely.
It was like a destiny thing there because then he meets him back at the tavern.
Right.
You know,
and he's not a woman.
Right. And if it wasn't for Madmartigan turning the queen's daughter against the queen...
Exactly.
Even though it was by chance or accident, but was it? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was kind of like, you kind of really don't know...
No, it was definitely a movie of destiny.
Yeah. Because,
like...
there was too many coincidences.
Too many.
The brownies that, at first you would think that they didn't have any real need to be there, but if they didn't have them,
right,
they wouldn't have gotten out of the little jail on the top of the snowy mountain.
Exactly.
Everybody kind of had a purpose and a reason for being there, but Willow as a character, he was basically fleshed out and his story arc come to pass.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
I mean, like, the only way I could see them, because, he's already went on his adventure. He's got his little book for sorcery. I'm sure that he kept up with people here and there, but, people like that don't go on a second adventure because let's go do it.
Yeah.
Unless they lose everything at home. Now, you'd have to either go really dark and then, like, something wipes out his village and his wife and his children are dead and he has nothing else to do and live for.
Right.
But basically the movie itself kind of wraps itself up to a way that, like, if it's always just left as a standalone movie,
it does.
You're not missing anything because all they can really do without a really good writer and somebody that really cares about the property, it's either going to be really great or they're going to royally fuck it up.
Right.
There's not going to be an in-between.
Yeah, I agree.
Anybody that appreciates this movie for what it is, you're not going to get away with mediocre.
Yeah, maybe so. So maybe it is a good thing that it's kind of been killed for now. Because if they were to make it, I would rather see it justice,
right,
than to.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Turn out total trash.
Do you even really need Willow in it? Or would it be the further adventures of Laura Dannon and some kind of, like, what happens to the kingdom?
I think you need the mention of Willow.
Yeah.
But you don't need the physical Willow. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I do think, yes, you need the mention and the backstory here and there throughout whether it be, with Sasha and the princess of Madmorta or Badmorta, I can't remember how you pronounce it, but anyways,
Bavorma?
Yeah, or something like that.
The queen.
The evil queen,
yeah.
Right? Her daughter. I don't feel like that she played such an intricate role in the movie that you couldn't just use any redheaded older lady to tell the story to a Laura Dannon you know, this is, you know, and I've been holding this from you until you were the age that you needed to know to fulfill your destiny.
Right.
There was a person named Willow, and he was your keeper. You know, like,
so
because
you would do like the flashback type thing.
I would do like a flashback type thing, but you only need it.
Like her sitting in a night castle room with the canopy bed, and she's like, it's the dawn of her 18th birthday. She's 17.
And maybe she like, comes across.
You need to know this,
right?
And this is what really happened. And there was stuff that was left out to protect you. You were a baby. There's stuff that you can't remember.
Right.
Maybe make it to where this is just from the viewpoint of the baby.
Exactly.
But there was other stuff that happened
that nobody knew about.
Mm-hmm. Fill in some blanks.
And that's how you can introduce.
And then an older Willow could come walk to the door and like, yeah, we made it for your birthday party tomorrow, right. Blah blah blah, for your crowning.
I know you don't know who I am or whatever, but
maybe she has kept up with her, but like they haven't told her
the true story,
right? Because they don't want to put too much pressure on her,
right?
And it's been peaceful times.
It has been peaceful times, and maybe that's where, like you said, you can introduce where to like. That's where the one-off. Even though I feel like it was a mistake in the movie, how they played it out like you need to become older and fulfill your destiny to take the queen out.
Yeah.
But then the queen takes her own self out.
Right. The baby never takes.
So the
baby has to live to one day.
Right.
Usurp the queen, but
to fulfill her destiny.
Right, and that destiny was never fulfilled.
That destiny was never on both ends. So what I'm saying is I think that's a great way to introduce if you were to do it.
Like fade into a canopy bed on like far away with like some candles around your castle, and like the first words are like, "I wish your father was still around to help me now."
Right.
Because I never wanted to have to tell you.
I never wanted to have to tell you this because everyone, including Willow,
thought
that we never have to worry about this with her.
But then, like, maybe Willow does know, because like
somebody does know.
Has that information,
and that is the reason why
the prophecy was never fulfilled.
Right, and that is and you can base that if he comes to her birthday party or whatever. You could base that the real reason of why I'm here.
So technically, you could use him just like you said in the first episode to kick jump the story.
And then, you know, and occasionally, you know, if you wanted to introduce something in him. Maybe in the story, in the beginning, he gives something to her. Because you notice throughout this movie, there's always something that they're giving Willow. Or, you know, like the wand, the acorns, the book. Maybe there's something that Willow can pass on to her in certain increments. Like, here is this. Yeah. And she doesn't know, open this whenever you're in the need, or you get to this point. I'm getting old, and I'm not going to last much longer. But I've been waiting for this moment and this day, and I've been planning.
Right.
And you know, and here is this, and
passing
use this
down of information to the next generation.
Exactly.
Right.
And then you could introduce something like that to just kind of keep his legacy going without him.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, like, no, and that's where my, you know, the more I was thinking about it, especially after we watched the movie and you went home for a little bit to come back, and I was kind of reading up on some of this stuff. You know, I started really thinking about this. Yes, it's the name of the movie, but like he's third billed credited behind Val Kilmer, somebody else. Yeah. Technically, Val Kilmer is the star of the movie.
Sure.
Warwick Davis as Willow might be the lead of the movie.
And I think that's because of reputation.
Well, I think it's got to do with the fact that, like, George Lucas does that proverbial stories about a bigger conflict going on around the small guy. It's kind of like the original Star Wars. It was more about from the perspective of R2D2 and C3PO. These two random droids that, like, one of them can't even walk right, one rolls around. They bicker at each other, but there's this huge space and this empire going on around them, and how they inadvertently got sucked into this grander thing.
Right.
That's kind of like how Willow is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's there because the baby trusts him.
Right.
The spirit from the forest tells Willow, like, it's your job to take this one here, get the baby to here for protection.
Right.
And then once they get to the castle, him and Madmartigan realize that, like, oh shit. Like, they bicker, but then when they realize, like, there's nobody here, it's up to us.
Yeah. And they get it done.
They get it done.
Yes.
But I mean, lightning like that don't strike twice. You're not going to be able to retell the same kind of story and expect people to be okay with it. There's got to be some kind of a twist around it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I mean, Willow's not going to go on another adventure and then everything's going to just play out okay because he's Willow. He got lucky. He made he made a few right decisions that looked like bad decisions that turned out to be right decisions, and luck was on his side.
Right.
He would have never got anywhere without Madmartigan.
Right.
Which was supposed to be dead.
Yeah. According to the book.
Right. Even the Eric guy, like, left him for dead, and then he avenged his death.
He
so,
kept. They kept. Yes, they kept. Yeah. They definitely teased his death a couple of times in that movie. So I'm not so sure if that had anything to do with the books. I hardly doubt it, but...
See, maybe it's like, you know, going with your concept, which I think is a really good idea to tell it, and then maybe instead of having, like, de-aged CGI people, like, when she's telling backstory stuff, use some kind of, like, really, artistic, like, animation, maybe, to kind of tell some of the background stuff.
Like, maybe whether it's, like, in a dream or...
The dude that had, the skull mask, like, what if for some reason
was it Kale?
No,
Galador,
something like that.
Something
like, what if he did survive that somehow? Yeah, he got the sword going through his gut, blah blah blah, but somehow, like, he did crawl away from that.
Sure.
He would be the one that would be mad enough to make sure if anybody could bring the queen back, it'd be him.
Right.
Maybe he, like, if she's able to turn everybody into pigs, if besides her daughter at the time, if he was the only other person that she trusted a task with, when she thought her daughter couldn't get the baby, she called him.
Right.
So there could have been some kind of spell on him that kept him from having, like, a death wound.
Right.
Maybe he was just knocked out.
Possible. Sure. Maybe it's possible.
I mean, if she's got the power to turn everybody into pigs by laughing up on top of the castle, the one person you trust more than anybody else, you're going to want a safeguard in there somewhere. Maybe he survived.
Maybe he did.
Because they all go back to the castle where everybody was petrified at the end. That other castle's still left there. And she's got all these books and incantations and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, and then she was supposed to have a successor, but did not.
Right.
Because of her, which she told, and then both of those guys, well, I don't know what you would even call them, but I guess they were kind of like her council or...
Oh, the wizards,
the warlocks. Yes.
Yeah, the I know what you're trying to say.
You know what I'm talking... Yes. So, and
the prophets or whatever.
The prophets, right.
Yeah. So maybe, I mean, because, like, even when he took his skull mask off, he had that big beard, but he didn't look like he was, like, 59.
No.
He looked like he might have been in his early 30s or something.
Right.
So, you know, this is set 20 years later, 18 years later. He could still be in his late 40s, early 50s.
Right. Well, you could kind of use that, and I really hate to do this because I really don't like comparing Willow to Lord of the Rings, but...
There's a lot of influence, though, there, you can tell.
Yeah, I think, well, this came out before Lord of the Rings, so I would say that Willow... Maybe not the books. I don't know when the
books
actual...
were out way before the 80s. Yeah.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe there was. I would hate to say that George Lucas drew his inspiration from something that was not his own vision.
George Lucas drew Star Wars and this movie from every piece of culture from around the world.
Maybe so. Yeah, maybe
That's
so.
how no, I mean, he's come out and said the Bridge on the River Kwai, there's been like all these Japanese movies. He took lore from every major culture around the world, and that's how we made Star Wars. Nazi Germany was the empire. Like,
well,
no, there's no way that he wasn't inspired by some kind of Tolkien reference when it comes to this.
But in Lord of the Rings, where you have Gandalf's not constituent, but his friend, the other warlock guy.
Oh, Sauron.
Yeah. Which I think that was his successor.
Saruman.
Or his predecessor.
Saruman.
That was his successor.
Yes, he was the White Wizard before Gandalf.
Before
came back as
Gandalf.
the White Wizard. You're talking about Saruman.
Yeah, Saruman.
Yeah.
So maybe you could use Skeletor as potentially, because you know how the what's the guy with the all-seeing eye?
Sauron.
No, but he was possessed and he was being used, if you remember correctly.
In Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, in so to speak, in a sort of way, yeah. He wasn't the...
Sauron was the bad guy.
He was a bad guy.
The all-seeing eye was...
Mordor. Yeah, Mordor is an actual...
Was the place.
Was the place.
Yes.
But there was an actual entity.
That's Sauron.
It wasn't him the whole time, though,
Yes.
was it? He wasn't the...
Yes, Sauron.
I thought he was possessed by the actual...
Sauron was the bad guy in the Lord of the Rings.
The whole time?
The Wraith King was the one that rode on the back of the dragon. The big all-seeing eye was Sauron. He was banished to Mordor. And that's how he could see everything that was going on.
That just goes to show you how much I know about the... Yeah.
You know enough to be dangerous. But yeah, no, Sauron is the bad guy in the Lord of the Rings.
They made it out to be that this was... He was so old. Because apparently this had... like in the Lord of... and we're kind of getting off topic, but... And I'm only doing this to ask for my own personal, like, you know, I want to know. But they made out that in the old world that this was thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah,
that
it was during
this
the time
had
of
happened.
Still, when that big battle happened.
Right.
That was during the first age.
Was that?
We're in the third age by the time we get to Lord of the Rings movies. We're in the time of man.
So the Hobbit was supposed to be the second age?
No, the Hobbit still was not too long before the Lord of the Rings. That was still Bilbo. But like the actual battle where they cut off Sauron's finger and he lost the ring, and everything like that happened, that was like thousands of years before that, because the elves are immortal. Part of what's going on during the Lord of the Rings is when the elves are going out to sea to leave the land to Mid. It's the dawn of
I got
time
you.
of Mid.
So you're telling me that they haven't even made a movie before? So this is... I know that the Lord of the Rings is kind of... They made these movies where you kind of got to watch them in the order that you do Star Wars, where they'll come out with... This is part 4. Now, part 6 comes out next year.
I never watched all the Hobbit movies.
I think there was only one.
No, there was 3 of them. There's 3 of them. It was the Desolation of Smaug.
No.
Yeah. It was The Unexpected Journey, The Desolation of Smaug, which was the second one, and then there was the third one. I never saw them.
I never saw them neither. I just seen The Hobbit.
Yeah, the Hobbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I own that one, but then I wasn't happy with them.
All I seen was The Hobbit.
They changed it too much from the book. I'll just stick with the Lord of the Rings.
I did always enjoy them.
Yeah, I've had my little kids watch Lord of the Rings with me before, all 15 hours, like the extended versions.
Yeah, but I would love to see some more movies from that tell from the
Yeah.
the very beginning.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of show some flashbacks and stuff. But no, there's a lot of that's where I especially after reading like the books. Oh, there's always noises. I'm gonna have to like just edit this down as a separate video. Like me and Henry discussed the possibility of Willow sequels.
Right. Yeah.
No, it's chill though because it's cool.
It is chill.
Like this will be like a secondary video.
Yeah. Let's go.